across the continent?
Several tons.
Sorry? Okay, it actually comes to what has been figured out is about 50 tons per hectare per year.
Per hectare.
Per hectare, which is about 20
25.
tons per acre.
And it's upwards to 200.
Yeah, at the worst
That
case
the
scenario.
range is 50 to 200, depending where you are.
Yeah. And so it is also said that we are probably one of the best exporters of soil
To the ocean.
into the oceans. Then think about the kind of impact it has in everything else going downhill, not just on the farmers, but on the farms, then on the rivers, into the oceans, and everything else. Is that the kind of system that God created for us? Absolutely. That would be self-sustaining. Because remember, God said in Genesis 1, it is perfect. It is good. It is good. It is good. It is good. And then at the very end, the entire system was very good. All right.
Invested.
If Jesus were to come today as a steward,
They will be answerable. Bad stewards.
what would he say to you?
Even
Come,
the,
good and faithful servant.
I give you more
Give
land.
the one. Give the one.
All right. Let's see what happens on this other side.
yes, you already fitted. My brother is already seated.
Is that wisdom? I don't know.
Yes, it is. So I'll do the
Same,
of the age.
Just amount of rain.
same amount of rain. We'll do 2 nights of rainfall. And let's see what happens. Now think about the issues that Chris was already talking about earlier on. When it rains in the forest, the canopy gives the first shield of protection. And then what is at the bottom, on top of the soil? There is the dead leaves. So the kinetic energy that the rain actually comes with is completely reduced. Okay? And then eventually what you have is a situation whereby the water kind of easily percolates into the soil and finds its way down, filtering nice and softly.
Remember, this is a picture of you. You went home and you implemented farming God's way after you had plowed. Because you came to the workshop too late.
Yes.
We didn't get you in time. You
Sure.
plowed unknowingly. Remember, both plots are plowed.
Yes.
So you didn't obey that part. We're only checking one aspect.
Yeah.
You heard about God's blanket. So you said, at least if I plowed, at least I put God's blanket.
God's blanket.
So this is not a display of the full technology. This is a display of you only putting the blanket.
Blanket.
After plowing, after already some disobedience.
Sure. Okay. So again, let me have your feedback on this. What you see, the differences.
There's less soil.
Okay, so less soil, so much less soil.
Less organic material.
And it's clearer.
The water is clearer. What does it speak about the kind of quality of the water that we drink when it rains? Think about how much soil
The percentage goes
is still retained despite what we see here. Okay.
the other one was around 25, 50%. Is around
50%.
Can we put this just so that we're clear? We put this one.
I think even in a worst case scenario, you would still be happy drinking this kind of water as opposed to that. So what are the kind of issues that we must address? I mean, is it true that we really don't have enough rain? It's all about the stewardship, okay? It's all about the stewardship. And you can see for sure, anybody who is attempting farming God's way, of course, if you've done it for several years, year after year, the amount of water that you would expect to drain off of your land would definitely be less. Think about the kind of harvest that you would then have in that piece of land. Because majority of people would say, if I'm not able to produce enough from 10 acres of land, I think I should be able to produce more if I had double the size of the land. But we are saying let's have less land, managed much better, but still be able to increase our productivity, our fruitfulness, our management of the soil, and of course, just generally be happy with the work that you're doing, because the work itself is an opportunity and a blessing. All right. So, if you think about the challenges that we have as a result of mismanagement, I mean, this is just runoff that we're talking about. We haven't even talked about the gullies, or even probably to some extent, the losses that we would incur beyond the soil. Because if you are a farmer who went ahead and did your inputs and your seed, all of that would still be washed off.
Yeah, or someone may have planted their millet or sorghum.
Yeah. So you have to, you actually end up having to do the work again, only for the rains to come again, and the same thing happens. And then we say farming is not the most lucrative thing. I think I need to move into another profession, right? But there is no problem with the land. There is no problem with literally everything God has given us can be put to better use, and we can become better stewards. Is this helpful? Yes. Now, there are certain things that you also need to learn. We've not even talked about the issues that come about as a result of continuous plowing. Ultimately, your soil will develop something that we call a hard pan at the bottom, which you cannot penetrate. You know, even when you plant your seeds, at the point at which they try to develop their roots, the roots cannot go beyond that level. So you have a hard pan because of the continuous plowing and the kind of it's the settling of the sediments that eventually get to a point and put something there like a concrete layer under the topsoil. On the other hand, when it rains, there is also the circumstance or situation whereby, if you look keenly, you notice that if this were left in the sun for a while, you would have something called a crust. It looks like the crust of bread or the crust of a cake. So this kind of rainfall, as it hits the topsoil, it comes up with a situation called crusting, and that then does what? Makes any amount of more rainfall that comes also just disappear. Rather than go down into the soil, it goes away from the soil. And especially for those who are living in steep slopes. In fact, this is only 15 degrees, I think you confirmed.
We measured still.
Yeah. But think about a lot of farmers actually do their farming in steeper slopes, 20, 25, 30 degrees. It would be worse. All right. Then ultimately there is also what we call slumping, where the soil just collapses because the profile has been distorted. I don't know if you've seen a situation whereby you go and sit on your bed and you have a nice mattress that has been used for 20 years, it collapses, right? That's the same effect again we also find with soil, where the topsoil gets lower. As a matter of fact, you'll notice for those who are doing this kind of farming for a long time, their soils keep going lower and lower and lower. Whereas if you're doing farming God's way, you're actually building up your soil. We have plots in Kijabe where we've been doing this for close to 15 years, and you can clearly see the difference. Conventional side is almost like 30 centimeters lower than the farming God's way side that has probably gained another 10, 15 centimeters.
In fact, what I've seen, maybe you noticed the same thing.
Yeah.
We had ours on maybe 10% slope in Uganda. It self-terraces. So it was like this, the plowed one.
Yeah.
It goes like this, because the soil is getting pushed
Going down.
to the outside of the end of the garden, the downslope side, and the top gets eaten away. So we could go in that. This is just maybe 8 by 8 meters, but I could stand at the top of the plot. Here was the grass, above the plot, and here is my foot down into the plowed field, like this much difference in just a few years, and then so it keeps getting pushed, flattens out. Whereas the farming God's way slope, as the slope was, that's how it just continues where the garden was. Yeah, the natural slope is maintained.
Yes, one or two questions and then, yeah.
Let me ask, because I'm the one who brought this up. I actually love my farm to look the way it looks, clean, the way it is. Because this is the way we've been farming for a very long period of time. I think in my mind that's the only way I know. Did it just begin by accident, or it was informed maybe by some need by the people who started plowing to an extent of bringing tractors and other farm implements to do that?
Okay, all right. Now, I personally feel that this is something that has come with the Industrial Revolution and civilization and education all together. Because if we look at the Bible, in the Old Testament, it still talks about plowing. But the kind of plowing that was done back then is not this kind of plowing with the mold boards and disc plows and all that. It was a kind of a knife-shaped plow that would basically just slit the soil, and the seeds, whether it was wheat or whatever was planted, would go in between the slits.
So the plowing that was done, as you are saying, was specifically meant for
Planting.
putting seeds.
Exactly.
Not
It
turning
wasn't-
affecting the soil.
We would call it opening the soil. This is inversion plowing.
Yeah.
We're actually flipping the soil profile. The moldboard plow is designed to invert the soil.
So then what happens is that whatever is designed to be at the top, if it is the humus or whatever, the leaves goes under, and whatever is designed to be under there is brought up and exposed.
I think Givens explained something that has been happening. I think it's happening even this minute on my farm in Maitoko. I'm growing onions,
Yeah.
but we are doing flooding irrigation. So we create some beds where we can flood water to go in.
Yeah.
So when you look at the entrance where the water comes in, all the seeds that you planted there are not there. Because the soil, I think, has been pushed
Washed
all the
away.
way to the other end, as he was explaining. So the beds are slanting somehow. The soil has gone, and all the fertilizer and everything you put in ends up on the other end. So we've been struggling with that. I think I can understand that now.
All right. So do you now see a clear solution that you can actually implement?
So the good news is someone like you can actually just go home. You will change your onions next season, next time. But the thing you can do immediately is mulch that onion garden. It will cause enough change. Still, you need to change some other things, but it's significant enough to control the damage and save the crop.
Of course, I
And
will.
reduce your amount of irrigation.
I will need first to grow some mulch
Yeah.
because you can't get any near my farm. Nothing green. Everything I remove back.
So we're actually looking at generational problems here. There's a lot of complaint about little organic matter or any material in the villages to cut. Yes, we're having dry weather. It's not a good situation. I agree, but we have had generational habits of slash and burn and plowing, which both deplete the organic matter a lot.